People are lazy because of a lack of motivation, not in the sense that they don't desire a good outcome, like the outcome of working out is your fit, or the outcome of studying for a test is you get a good grade. They desire those outcomes. They just don't feel motivated to put in the work to receive the good outcomes they desire. And the reason why they're not motivated is because of a lack of energy. I define energy as a sense of readiness to act on motivation. If they had readiness, if they felt energetic, they would act upon the motivation that they had to receive a good outcome. But because of that lack of energy, they don't feel motivated. And really, it's a perceived lack of energy because most of the time, everyone has enough energy to put in work to receive the outcomes they may desire. We have enough energy to work out. We have enough energy to eat the right foods and make the disciplined choices. We just perceive a lack of energy. And because of that, we're not as motivated to stay disciplined. So the question is not how can I generate more energy, but how can I have a greater perception of the energy I already have? And with that perception, have more motivation and thus discipline. And the answer is found in your thoughts, because your thoughts form your perception. So if I change my thoughts, if I reframe what I'm thinking about, I can get a different perception and develop more energy for myself. So how do we do this? How can we reframe our thoughts in such a way to develop more energy? The answer is found in necessity. When something feels like a necessity, you have more energy to do it. For example, in building urgency, urgency is the energy I apply to a task that needs to get done. See, if I had a math project due 2 weeks from now, I don't have that great of a sense of urgency to get it done because the deadline is so far away. However, if the same project was due 2 days from now, all of a sudden, I have a bunch of energy towards finishing the project. Why? Because there's a greater sense of urgency. There's more energy I have to apply to the project in order to get it done. What's that called? That's called a necessity. I now have a necessity, a reason to put in effort. Thus, I have more energy. Thus, I have more motivation. Thus, I have greater self-control. Not because I changed, but because my energy shifted. My perception shifted because of the necessity. In the same way, we can build mental necessities in our mind to direct our energy towards an outcome and feel more motivated. We do this by building mental deadlines. If I told myself, hey, I have to work out by 6 a.m. today, or hey, I have to make sure to record this video by the end of the day, what am I doing? I'm building a sense of necessity by creating a deadline. I'm saying, hey, I have to apply more energy to get this done so I can make sure I get the task done. And by having that, I now feel more motivated to act upon what I already want to do. So lazy people, what they have is no sense of necessity. You may feel lazy on days you don't have any work to do, on days you're not working, on days you just have nothing planned. Well, you feel more lazy on those days because there's no necessity. There's no reason to put in work. But when you make a perceived reason, all of a sudden you get perceived energy because you have to have the motivation to complete the perceived task you made up. So have a sense of necessity. Another thing we can do to have more energy and not be lazy is build a sense of dread. Dread is the energy I get from having a bad expectation. For example, if there's a food I'm tempted by to eat, such as ice cream, I can build dread and not desire the ice cream. If I tell myself, man, I hate ice cream, I don't want to eat ice cream today, it's going to make me fat. What I'm doing is building energy against eating the ice cream due to my bad expectations. And again, whatever we have energy towards, we're going to desire. So because my energy is against eating the ice cream, I desire not to eat it and have more self-control to avoid the temptation. Not because the temptation changed, the ice cream still tastes good. If I tell myself this is going to make me fat, well, guess what? The temptation is perceived as worse. It's less tempting to me because of my thoughts, giving me more discipline and giving me more self-control to avoid it. Same thing with laziness. If we simply reframe our laziness and build dread towards it, guess what? We have energy against being lazy. So if I'm on my bed, not doing anything, just scrolling TikTok, I can tell myself, man, I hate TikTok. I hate scrolling. I hate wasting time. What am I doing? Building dread against that outcome. So now I desire not to do that outcome because my energy is against it and I have self-control to not do it. So even though I feel lazy, I'm now building energy against the laziness, having motivation towards a better outcome that I desire. If we do this, we will have the motivation not to be lazy. Just build mental dread. And that leads us to the third thing we can do, which is completely reframe our laziness. And we do this by living the laziness out. See, eventually, if we're lazy all day, we're going to grow fat and unhealthy and sick, and we may even die because we're not doing anything. And I like to say this, every time you're not getting better, you're going to get worse because of the law of entropy. Things tend to disorder. They never stay the same. So by being lazy, I'm going to get worse and worse and worse until I die. By living that circumstance out, I'm seeing the implications of my actions. And by having that frame, it gives me energy against that outcome because that is not an outcome I want to live out. At the same time, when I live out a better outcome, such as, hey, if I put in work, I can reach my goals. I can make money. I can have a great family. I can do whatever things I want to do. When I play out that, it gives me a greater desire for that. It gives me energy towards that good outcome. And because I have energy towards that, I will now have more self-control to stop being lazy and work towards that outcome because I built motivation for it. And that's the frame we have to apply. We have to make sure to live out what we're doing. If we take it to the extreme, we can now build motivation. Because again, people are lazy because of a lack of motivation. They don't have energy towards the task they know they should do. But ultimately, it's due to their short-term views on life. They think, hey, what's the next pleasurable experience? What's the next dopamine hit? What's the next thing I can do to feel good about where I am? And because that short-term view, not viewing the long-term, they now have motivation towards whatever is easiest because that's what feels the best right now. And thus, they have more motivation not to do anything than to put in the effort to do something. So when we change our motivation by simply using our mind to frame something different, by having a sense of necessity, by saying, man, this short-term view I'm living out is not what I want to live out, by building dread in that way, and by looking at the long-term view and how great it's going to be if we actually live and act upon the motivation we have, guess what? We now don't want to be lazy anymore. We have motivation not to be lazy, and because of that motivation, we have energy, desire, and with that desire comes the self-control to avoid laziness. So I want to end this video on giving the frame of what happens when we live out laziness. The Bible tells us the drunkard and glutton will lie down together, and drowsiness will clothe a man in rags. So if you're lazy, you're going to eventually be on the path of getting clothed in rags. You're not going to have any money, no substance, no nothing. That should motivate you to put in effort. Or how about this one? Proverbs chapter 6. Go to the ant, you sluggard, consider her ways and be wise, which having no captain, overseer, or ruler, provides her supplies in the summer and gathers her food in the harvest. How long will you slumber, O sluggard? When will you rise from your sleep? A little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of your hands to rest, so shall poverty come on you like a prowler, and your need like an armed man. Poverty is going to come, your need is going to come, and guess what? You're going to have nothing you can do about it when you are lazy. So hopefully this can motivate you to put in work, that have energy towards that outcome so you can avoid these pitfalls. If you like this type of content, feel free to subscribe. Also wrote a book about discipline. Like if you become disciplined, you become more influential. And this book shows you how to do that and how that is the case. So it's called Controlling the Controllables, how anyone can become influential and be disciplined, and you'll be able to influence others to also be more disciplined. That's why it's so important not to be lazy. So check out this book on my website at awesomeMurray.com, or you can find it on Amazon. And I appreciate you guys watching, and make sure to subscribe, like, comment, and check out my next video next week.